farmer bet his farm that no one could ride his donkey, until a black girl came along and William Thompson was desperate when he made that bet in the town square of Greenfield Creek. He had lost everything in recent years, and now his farm was about to be seized by creditors. That's when he shouted to the whole town that he would bet his land and remaining savings to anyone who could ride Thunder, the donkey that had belonged to his late wife, Catherine. Since she passed 2 years ago, the animal had become impossible to handle, kicking anyone who came near. "Whoever can ride this stubborn thing gets everything I own," William declared, his voice choked with emotion. The crowd gathered around the makeshift pen. Several men tried to approach the dark brown donkey, but they all ran off when the animal bared its teeth and reared its hind legs. Among the onlookers, an elderly black woman with graying hair held the hand of a girl about 5 years old. The girl wore a faded yellow t-shirt and patched jeans, but her eyes sparkled with a special curiosity. "Grandma Beatrice, why is the little animal so angry?" little Amber asked in her sweet voice. "I don't know, dear. Maybe he misses someone," the grandmother replied, squeezing the girl's hand. William laughed bitterly when he saw yet another young man running from the pen. "Look at that. Not even Jack, who's been breaking horses for 20 years, could do it," the farmer mocked, though deep down his heart was breaking. Amber let go of her grandmother's hand and began walking toward the pen. The crowd fell silent as they watched the small child approach the wild animal. "Hey, little girl, come back here," William shouted. "That beast is dangerous." But Amber didn't stop. She reached her tiny hand between the fence slats and made a soft sound, almost a whisper. "Hi, Thunder. You're sad, aren't you?" The donkey, who had scared off every adult, suddenly stilled. His ears twitched toward the girl's gentle voice. "Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out." Now back to the story. William's heart raced as he watched the donkey lower its head and move toward the fence where Amber stood. "Good Lord," someone in the crowd murmured. The girl kept speaking softly to the animal, who was now completely calm. Without hurry, she opened the gate and stepped inside. "Little girl, get out of there," William yelled, but his voice came out weaker than expected. Amber walked up to Thunder and held out her hand. The donkey sniffed delicately and to everyone's astonishment let her stroke its muzzle. "You just wanted a friend, didn't you?" the girl said, now running her fingers through the animal's mane. In just a few minutes, something unbelievable happened. Amber climbed onto Thunder's back as naturally as if she'd done it 1,000 times. The donkey not only allowed it, but began walking gently around the pen. The crowd erupted in shouts of surprise and applause. William turned pale as a sheet. "This can't be," he whispered, watching the impossible scene unfold before his eyes. Beatrice stepped closer to the fence, tears in her eyes. "Amber's always had a special way with animals," she said quietly to William, "ever since she was tiny." The farmer looked at the woman and felt something familiar, but he couldn't place it. "Mum, do I know you from somewhere?" he asked, confused. Beatrice lowered her gaze and didn't answer right away. Amber slid off Thunder and walked over to where William stood, still in shock. "Mr. Thompson, Thunder wasn't being mean. He just had a broken heart," the girl said with the innocent wisdom of children. "How do you know my name, child?" "Grandma told me. She said you were very sad too." William looked again at Beatrice, who was now silently crying. "Beatrice Miller," he said, suddenly recognizing the woman. "You were Catherine's best friend." The crowd had slowly dispersed, but a few onlookers remained to see how things unfolded. "Yes, William, it's me," replied Beatrice, wiping her tears. "But you disappeared after Catherine's funeral. Why did you never come back?" Beatrice took a deep breath before answering. "I had my reasons, William. Reasons that, well, maybe it's time you knew." Amber, who had been playing with Thunder, approached the adults. "Grandma, why are you crying? Did I do something wrong?" "No, sweetheart. You did everything just right. More than right," said Beatrice, stroking her granddaughter's face. William was still trying to process what had happened. "Beatrice, I have to keep my word. The girl rode Thunder. According to the bet, she won everything I own. I don't want anything from you, Amber quickly said. I just don't want Thunder to be sad anymore. Amber, Beatrice began, but the girl interrupted her. Can I come visit him sometimes? I think he needs friends. William felt a lump in his throat. There was something about that child that moved him deeply. Of course you can, sweetheart. Come as often as you'd like. William, Beatrice said hesitantly, I need to talk to you about Catherine, about some things she told me before she passed. The farmer felt a chill down his spine. Had Catherine kept secrets? What kind of things, Beatrice? Things that might change everything you think you know about her last months. At that moment, a tall, thin man approached the group. It was Richard, William's brother-in-law and Catherine's brother. William, what kind of nonsense is this? I hear you bet the farm on a child's game. It wasn't a game, Richard. The girl rode Thunder, something no one's managed in 2 years. This is ridiculous. You can't hand over our family legacy to a stranger. Our legacy? William asked, raising an eyebrow. The farm is mine, Richard. It was my sister's too. And she promised me that... She promised you nothing, Beatrice interrupted firmly. Richard looked at her as if he'd seen a ghost. Beatrice, what are you doing here? Telling truths that should have been told long ago. Amber, sensing the tension, moved closer to Thunder again. The donkey immediately calmed in her presence. Grandma, Thunder doesn't like that man, the girl said, subtly pointing at Richard. It was true. Since Richard had arrived, the animal had shown signs of agitation. Beatrice, I don't know what lies you're trying to spread, but... Richard began. They're not lies, Richard, and you know it. William looked between them, confused. Can someone explain what's going on here? Catherine found out some things about Richard before she passed, William. Things she wanted to tell you but didn't have time. What kind of things? Beatrice glanced at Amber, who was distracted with the donkey. Maybe we should talk in private. There's nothing to talk about, Richard said quickly. Beatrice has always been dramatic. Catherine was sick, delirious in her last days. Catherine wasn't delirious, Richard, and you know it. William sensed there was far more to this story than he realized. Beatrice, come to the house tonight. We need to talk calmly. And bring Amber too. I'd like her to see more of the farm. Thank you, William. I think it's truly time you knew the truth. Richard left, visibly angry, but not before giving Beatrice a threatening glare. That afternoon, while Amber was playing with Thunder in the pasture, Beatrice began to reveal secrets that had been kept for 2 years. Catherine found out Richard was embezzling money from the cattle sales, William. She had proof. Proof? What kind of proof? Documents, fake receipts. She kept everything in a box, said it was in the attic of the old house. William felt the world spin. Richard was his brother-in-law, someone he trusted. Why didn't Catherine tell me this? She was going to. She had planned to talk to you the day after she passed. And why didn't you ever say anything? Beatrice took a deep breath. Because Richard threatened me, William. Said if I opened my mouth, he'd hurt Amber. Hurt Amber? Why would he care about your granddaughter? Beatrice looked at the girl who was making Thunder run in circles, the two playing like old friends. Because Amber isn't just my granddaughter, William. What do you mean? She's also related to Catherine. William felt as if he'd been punched in the gut. How is that possible? Remember Melissa, Catherine's niece, that girl who disappeared from home at 16? I remember. Catherine suffered so much when Melissa vanished. Melissa didn't disappear, William. She ran away because she was pregnant and scared of how the family would react. And Amber is Melissa's daughter, my great-granddaughter, but also Catherine's great-niece. William had to lean on the fence to keep from falling. But Melissa died in childbirth. The baby's father vanished as soon as he found out about the pregnancy. Amber's been with me since she was a baby. Did Catherine know? She found out just before she passed. That's why she wanted so badly to talk to you. She wanted to tell you about Richard and about Amber. William looked at the girl playing happily with the donkey. Now he understood why Thunder had accepted her so easily. Catherine always said animals recognized pure-hearted people, and Amber had the same gentle touch as her great-aunt. Why didn't Richard want you to tell me this? Because if you knew Amber was family, you might want to include her in the inheritance. And Richard always thought he deserved everything after Catherine's passing. At that moment, Amber came running up to them. "Mr. William, Thunder showed me where there are some old papers in the barn." William and Beatrice exchanged glances. "What papers, sweetheart?" asked Beatrice. "Some papers in a box hidden behind the horse stalls." Thunder sniffed it out and found it. William's heart raced. Could those be the documents Catherine had hidden? The three of them headed to the barn, with Thunder following behind like a loyal dog to Amber. In the spot the girl pointed to, there was indeed a wooden box hidden behind some loose boards. William opened the box with trembling hands. Inside were dozens of documents, receipts, and even some photos. "My God," he murmured, flipping through the papers. It was all true. Richard had falsified cattle sales, embezzled money, and even forged Catherine's signature on some documents. "Catherine gathered all this evidence alone?" asked William. "With my help," Beatrice admitted. "She'd suspected for months, but we only got proof shortly before she passed." "And there's one more thing, William," said Beatrice, pulling an envelope from the bottom of the box. "A letter Catherine wrote to you." William carefully opened the envelope. Catherine's delicate handwriting made him cry before he even began to read. "My dearest William, if you're reading this letter, it means I'm no longer here to tell you in person about the discoveries I've made. Forgive me for not having the courage to tell you sooner about Richard. I knew it would break your heart. But there's something even more important I need to tell you. I met a special girl, the niece of our dear Melissa. Her name is Amber, and she has a gift with animals like I've never seen before. William, if anything happens to me, please take care of her and Beatrice. They're family now, and don't let Richard destroy everything we built together. Thunder knows how to recognize good people. Trust his instincts. With all my love, Catherine." William finished reading the letter with tears streaming down his face. Amber walked over and, without a word, took his hand. "Don't cry, Mr. William. Catherine is watching over you from heaven," the girl said with a sweetness that broke the man's heart even more. "How do you know my wife's name, Amber?" "Grandma used to tell me stories about her. She said she was very kind and loved animals like I do." Beatrice nodded in agreement. Catherine visited Amber a few times before she passed. She said the girl reminded her of when she was a child. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. In the days that followed, William confronted Richard with the evidence he'd found. His brother-in-law tried to deny everything, but the documents were irrefutable. "You betrayed your own sister's trust, Richard," William said, his voice heavy with sadness and anger. "Catherine was sick. She didn't know what she was doing," Richard shot back. "Catherine was more clear-headed than you think. And now you'll return every cent you stole, or I'll have to involve the authorities." "You can't prove anything." "Oh, I can. And if you try anything against Beatrice or Amber again, you'll see what I'm capable of." Richard left the farm that day and never returned. But William's troubles were far from over. The farm's financial situation was worse than he'd imagined. Between Richard's embezzlement and the mounting debts, he'd have to sell nearly everything to settle what was owed. Amber started visiting the farm every day after school. Beatrice worked as a seamstress for a shop in town and always picked her granddaughter up in the evening. The girl truly had a special gift with animals. Besides Thunder, she managed to bond with the most skittish horses and even the bulls no one else could handle. "How do you do that, Amber?" William asked one day, watching the girl calm a mare who had recently lost her foal. "I just talk to them, Mr. William. I tell them I understand how they feel." "And how do you know how they feel?" "Because sometimes I feel sad too. When I do, I like it when someone talks to me softly, just like I do with them." William noticed a deep melancholy in those expressive little eyes. Amber carried the pain of never knowing her parents and seeing her grandmother work so hard to support them. One evening, Beatrice arrived at the farm later than usual, visibly worried. "William, I need to talk to you." "Of course, Beatrice, what's wrong?" "The doctor said I need some tests." He thinks it might be something serious. What kind of tests? For my heart. I've been having chest pains and trouble breathing. William felt his own heart tighten. Beatrice was all Amber had in the world. How much do the tests cost? More than I can afford, William. And if it really is something serious, don't worry about the money, Beatrice. We'll handle it together. William, you barely have enough to save the farm. I can't accept... Of course you can. Catherine made it clear in her letter. Your family. Amber, who had been saying goodnight to Thunder, walked over to the adults. Grandma, why are you crying? It's nothing serious, sweetheart. I'm just a little worried. Is it because of your heart, isn't it? Beatrice and William exchanged surprised glances. How did you know that, Amber? Her grandmother asked. Because I hear when you run out of breath at night, and you always put your hand on your chest. Beatrice hugged her granddaughter, moved by the girl's perception. Grandma will be okay, right, Mr. William? Asked Amber, her eyes full of hope. We'll do everything we can, sweetheart. I promise. In the following days, William sold part of his cattle to pay for Beatrice's tests. The results confirmed their fears. She had a serious heart condition and needed urgent surgery. How much does the surgery cost? William asked the doctor. It's a large sum, Mr. William, and it needs to be done in Chicago at a specialized hospital. William did the math. To pay for Beatrice's surgery, he'd have to sell nearly everything left of the farm, but he didn't hesitate for a second. Doctor, go ahead and schedule the surgery. I'll get the money. Beatrice tried to protest, but William stood firm. Catherine taught me that family takes care of family, and you all are my family now. Amber, without fully grasping the gravity of the situation, sensed something important was happening. She started spending even more time at the farm, helping William with the animals and bringing genuine joy to those difficult days. Mr. William, are you sad because you have to sell the farm? She asked one day as they brushed Thunder together. A little, Amber, but sometimes we have to let go of things to take care of the people we love. Like when I share my lunch at school with Emily because she forgets hers? Exactly like that. Then it's okay. Grandma is more important than the farm. The child's simple wisdom touched William deeply. He realized he was gaining far more than he was losing. Beatrice's surgery was scheduled for the following week. William had already sold nearly everything and secured the money. The night before their trip to Chicago, Amber asked to sleep at the farm. I want to stay close to Thunder tonight. Tomorrow I'll be far away. William prepared the guest room for her, but she insisted on setting up a small cot in the stable. Won't you be scared out here alone? He asked. I won't be alone. I'll be with Thunder and all the other animals. During the night, William went to check on her and found her whispering to the donkey. What are you telling him? He asked, stepping quietly closer. I'm asking him to take care of you while I'm gone, and I'm telling him Grandma will be okay because so many people are praying for her. You're sure about that? Yes, Catherine told me. William felt a chill. What do you mean, Amber? She visits me sometimes in my dreams. She said she'll take care of Grandma and that I'll get a really nice surprise later. William didn't know if he believed in visions or prophetic dreams, but Amber's innocent faith comforted him in an inexplicable way. Beatrice's surgery was a success. William and Amber spent 3 days in Chicago waiting for her recovery. During those days in the city, William realized just how special Amber was. She comforted other children at the hospital, helped the nurses, and even made an elderly man smile for the first time in weeks. You have a gift, Amber, William said. A gift for healing people's and animals' hearts. It's not me who heals, Mr. William. I just let love pass through me. When they returned to Greenfield Creek, William found the farm in a sorry state. With no money to hire help, he was trying to manage everything alone. Don't worry, Mr. William, Amber said, seeing his discouragement. We'll take care of everything together. And so they did. Beatrice, still recovering, helped where she could from inside the house. Amber became a little farmer, tending to the animals with remarkable dedication. But the financial situation remained tough. William had sold so much that he could barely support the family. That's when something unexpected happened. Dr. Robert, the local veterinarian, showed up at the farm one Saturday afternoon. William, I need to talk to you about a proposal. What kind of proposal, Doctor? I've been watching Amber's work with the animals. It's something extraordinary. Have you ever thought about turning it into something bigger? What do you mean? Equine therapy, William. There's a growing demand for this kind of treatment in the area. Children with learning difficulties, elderly folks with depression, people in recovery. And Amber has a natural talent for it. William looked at the girl who was teaching a young mare to accept the saddle. But she's just a child, doctor. Of course, she'd need training and supervision, but her gift is real, and with the right setup, you could turn part of the farm into an equine therapy center. The idea began to take shape in William's mind. It was a way to keep the farm and help others at the same time. How much would we need to get started? Less than you think. I know some organizations that could help with the initial investment, and I'm sure there'd be demand. Amber walked up to the two men with Thunder following close behind. What are you talking about? A way to help more people, just like you help the animals, William explained. That's so cool. Can I help? You'd be the main helper, Amber. In the months that followed, with Dr. Roberts' help and support from local organizations, William began transforming part of the farm into an equine therapy center. Amber showed not only a gift with animals, but also an incredible intuition for understanding the needs of every person who came there. The first patient was an 8-year-old autistic boy who hadn't spoken since a trauma 2 years earlier. How are we going to help him? Amber asked William. Let him approach the horses at his own pace. Don't force anything. Amber spent days just sitting near the boy, never pressuring him to interact. Until one day, he walked up to her and, without a word, pointed at Thunder. Do you want to meet Thunder? Amber asked softly. The boy nodded. Amber slowly guided him to the donkey. When the small hand touched the animal's muzzle, something magical happened. He's beautiful, the boy said, his first words in 2 years. William, watching from a distance, had to walk away to cry from emotion. The equine therapy center thrived quickly. People came from nearby towns for treatment, and Amber became known in the area for her work with special needs children. Beatrice, fully recovered from her surgery, helped by caring for patients and their families. William, I think Catherine knew this would happen, she said one day, watching Amber work with a group of elderly patients. Why do you say that? Because she always said God never closes a door without opening a window. And look what window opened for us. The farm wasn't just saved, it flourished again. But more than that, it became a place of healing and hope. Amber grew up at the Equine Therapy Center, always surrounded by animals and people who came seeking help. She developed remarkable emotional maturity while keeping her natural sweetness and joy. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. When Amber turned 10, William made her adoption official, legally becoming her father. Beatrice continued living on the farm, now as the beloved grandmother of a family that had formed in an unconventional but deeply loving way. Father William, said Amber one Sunday afternoon as they watched Thunder play with the younger colts. Do you think Catherine would be proud of what we've done here? I'm sure she would, my dear. She always dreamed of turning this place into something special. And we did it, didn't we? Yes, we did. The center had expanded over the years. William built new facilities, hired specialized staff, and even secured an agreement with the public healthcare system to serve underprivileged families. Amber, now a teenager, divided her time between her studies and work at the center. She had decided she wanted to become a veterinarian to help even more animals. Father, there's something I've always wanted to ask you, she said one afternoon while helping prepare Thunder for a therapy session. Ask away, my dear. Do you think if I hadn't ridden Thunder that day, our family would have found each other anyway? William stopped what he was doing and looked at the daughter life had gifted him. You know, Amber, I think so. Because people who are meant to be together always find a way, one way or another. Like you and Catherine. Like me and Catherine. And like you, me, and Grandma Beatrice. Amber smiled and hugged her father. I love you, Father William. I love you too, my dear, more than you can imagine. Thunder, now over 15 years old, remained the gentlest and most patient animal at the center. He seemed to understand he had a special mission there and never refused a therapy session, no matter how long. The donkey had become a legend in the area. Stories of his kindness and wisdom spread far and wide, drawing visitors from distant places. "Father, what will we do when Thunder gets too old to work?" Amber asked one morning. "We'll care for him with all the love he deserves. He'll have a very comfortable retirement here on the farm. And will the other animals learn from him how to be good therapists?" "They're already learning, dear. Just look at how the younger horses behave around him." It was true. Thunder had become a mentor to the other animals at the center, teaching them by example to be patient and gentle with patients. When Amber turned 15, she received a surprise that would change her life forever. A letter arrived at the center, sent by a veterinary school in Chicago. They had heard about her work with equine therapy and offered her a full scholarship. "Father, I can't accept this," Amber said, tears in her eyes. "I can't leave you and Grandma here alone. Amber, my dear, this is the opportunity you've always dreamed of, and we'll be here when you return." "But what about the center and the patients?" "The center will keep running, and you'll come back even more prepared to help." Beatrice, now over 70 but still strong and sharp, fully supported the decision. "My granddaughter, you have a gift that needs to be nurtured. Go study and come back to do even greater things here." Amber left for university at the start of the following year, carrying in her heart all the lessons she had learned on the farm. During her 5 years of school, she returned whenever she could to help at the center and to see Thunder and her family. The donkey always showed extra joy when Amber arrived, as if he knew she was preparing for something big. In her final year, Amber developed a research project on equine therapy that caught the attention of the academic world. Her work was published in specialized journals, and she was invited to present it at conferences. "Father, I did it," she said in an excited phone call. "My project was selected for the National Veterinary Conference." "I'm so proud of you, my dear." Catherine would be overjoyed. "And there's more news. I received an offer to work at a famous clinic in New York." There was silence on the other end of the line. "Dad, are you there?" "Yes, I am, sweetheart. And what do you plan to do?" "I don't know yet. It's an incredible opportunity, but your heart is here at the farm." "Exactly. Amber, you don't have to choose between pursuing your career and staying close to family. There's a middle path." "What do you mean?" "How about expanding the center? Turning it into a research institute too? You could develop your studies right here and help even more people." The idea was perfect. Amber turned down the offer from New York and returned to Greenfield Creek with an ambitious plan. With support from research institutions and the state government, she transformed the Equine Therapy Center into a nationally recognized institute. The place began hosting interns from universities across the country, and Amber became a respected expert in her field. Thunder, now nearly 20 years old, had retired from therapy sessions but remained an important presence at the institute. He had trained a new generation of therapy animals and became the official mascot of the place. "Dad, look how many lives Thunder has touched," Amber said one afternoon, watching the donkey rest under a tree while children played nearby. "Not just Thunder, sweetheart. You've touched many lives too. All of us together, our family." Beatrice, now 80, still helped at the institute, telling stories to children and teaching other grandmothers how to care for special grandchildren. The institute flourished and became a model replicated across the United States. Amber received awards and recognition, but never lost the humility and kindness that had defined her since childhood. In 2028, when Amber turned 25, something happened that moved everyone. Thunder, who had seemed fine despite his advanced age, began showing signs that his time was coming to an end. "Dr. Robert, how long does he have?" Amber asked, tears in her eyes. "It's hard to say, Amber. Could be days, could be weeks. But one thing I can promise. He's had a life full of love and purpose." Amber decided to spend Thunder's final days by his side, sleeping in the stable like she had as a child. "Thank you for everything, my friend," she whispered every night. "Thank you for bringing our family together and for helping so many people." William and Beatrice also spent hours beside the donkey, reminiscing about the incredible journey they'd shared. "Remember when you first rode him?" William asked Amber. "Like it was yesterday." I knew he wasn't mean, just sad. And you were right. You've always been right about animals. Thunder passed on an autumn dawn, surrounded by the family he'd helped create. Amber cradled his head in her lap as he closed his eyes for the last time. Rest in peace, my friend. You've fulfilled your mission. Thunder's funeral was deeply moving. Hundreds of people whose lives he'd touched came to say goodbye. Children, elders, healthcare professionals, all united in gratitude for that special animal. William gave a speech that touched everyone. Thunder taught us that even in pain and anger, there's room for love. He showed us that sometimes we need a small, pure heart to remind us what truly matters in life. Amber buried Thunder in a special spot at the Institute, beneath a tree Catherine had planted years earlier. A memorial was erected there, becoming a place of pilgrimage for people across the country. Life went on at the Institute, but with renewed purpose. Amber decided to write a book telling Thunder's story and the transformation he brought about. The book became a bestseller and inspired the creation of several other equine therapy centers across the United States. "Dad, do you think we lived up to Thunder's legacy?" asked Amber one afternoon as they watched the new foals playing in the pasture. "More than that, my dear. You've created a legacy of your own. You and Thunder. Together, you've changed far more lives than you realize." Amber married at 27 to Mark, a veterinarian who had come to intern at the Institute and ended up captivated not just by the work, but especially by its director. The wedding was held right on the farm with all the animals present. Beatrice, now 83, was the one who walked Amber down the aisle. "Grandma, thank you for teaching me to love without fear," Amber said at the altar. "And thank you for showing me that family isn't just who you're born with, but who you choose to stay with," Beatrice replied, moved. William blessed the couple with words Catherine had written in a letter meant to be opened only on Amber's wedding day. "May you always be to each other what Thunder was to our family, a source of unconditional love, endless patience, and true joy." Amber and Mark had 2 children, Catherine and Ethan. The children grew up at the Institute, surrounded by animals and learning early the values of compassion and dedication. Beatrice lived to 92, long enough to see her great-grandchildren take their first steps in the same pasture where Amber had first ridden Thunder. "Grandma, tell me the story of Thunder again," little 5-year-old Catherine would ask, the same age Amber had been when it all began. "Once upon a time, there was a very special donkey," Beatrice would begin, her eyes shining. "Who taught us all that love has the power to heal any broken heart." William lived to 78, long enough to see the Institute become a global reference in equine therapy. He passed away peacefully in his sleep, in the same room where Catherine had spent her final days, surrounded by the love of the family life had gifted him. Amber took full leadership of the Institute and continued expanding its work. Under her guidance, special programs were created for war veterans, children in vulnerable situations, and elderly people with depression. The Institute gained international recognition, and Amber was invited to speak at universities around the world, always carrying the message that small acts of love can transform entire lives. At 40, Amber looked around the Institute and remembered that 5-year-old girl who had climbed onto a stubborn donkey simply because she sensed his sadness. "Mom, why are you crying?" asked Catherine, now 15, and already showing the same gift with animals as her mother. "I'm not sad, sweetheart, just grateful." "Grateful for what?" "For learning that sometimes life's greatest blessings come disguised as problems." "What do you mean?" "If Grandpa William hadn't made that desperate bet, if Thunder hadn't been sad, if Grandma Beatrice hadn't had the courage to tell the truth, none of this would exist." Catherine looked around, seeing hundreds of people whose lives had been touched by the Institute's work. "So you mean everything happened for a reason?" "I don't know if it was for one specific reason, dear, but I do know that when good-hearted people come together with special animals, wonderful things can happen." Just then, a new donkey arrived at the Institute. Young, frightened, and visibly traumatized. "Mom, can I try to help him?" Catherine asked. Amber smiled, seeing the same spark in her daughter's eyes that she'd had at 5. "Of course, sweetheart, but remember the first rule?" "I do. Patience, love, and never giving up." Catherine approached the new animal with the same gentleness her mother had shown decades before. The donkey, initially skittish, gradually calmed at the sound of the girl's soft voice. "Hey there, boy. You're scared, aren't you? You'll be safe here. Here we mend broken hearts." Amber watched the scene with her heart overflowing with gratitude. The cycle continued. A new generation was ready to carry forward the legacy of love and healing that had begun with a desperate bet and a brave girl. The Institute kept growing and helping people for many years. When Amber retired at 65, she had trained hundreds of professionals and touched thousands of lives. Her daughter Catherine took over as director, bringing fresh ideas while preserving the core of love and dedication that had always defined their work. On Amber's retirement day, a new memorial was unveiled at the Institute, a bronze statue of a girl riding a donkey, inscribed with the words, "In memory of Thunder and all who believe love can heal any broken heart." Amber, now a grandmother of 3, continued visiting the Institute daily, telling stories to new generations of children and teaching them that small gestures can have great consequences. "Grandma Amber, is it true you saved the farm by riding a wild donkey?" a boy asked during one of her storytelling sessions. "I didn't save the farm, sweetheart. Thunder saved all of us. He taught us that when we reach out to help someone who's hurting, we end up saving ourselves too." Was he really that wild? He wasn't wild, just sad. And sometimes, when people or animals are very sad, they can seem wild. But beneath that, there's always a heart that just needs a little love. Amber's stories spread far beyond the Institute. Books were written, documentaries were made, and her life became an example of how compassion and determination can transform not just individual destinies, but entire communities. At 70, Amber still rode the gentlest horses at the Institute, always accompanied by her grandchildren, who had inherited the same love for animals. "Grandma, do you miss Thunder?" asked Ethan, her youngest grandson. "Every day, my love. But he's still here," she said, touching her heart. "And every time I see a child overcoming their struggles with the help of our animals, I know his spirit is with us." The Institute, born from William Thompson's desperate bet, became one of the world's leading centers for equine therapy. People came from other continents to witness their work and learn the techniques developed there. But to Amber, the greatest success wasn't in awards or recognition. It was in the letters she received from people whose lives had been changed by the Institute, like Olivia, an autistic girl who had spoken her first words while riding one of Thunder's descendants, or old Joe, a depressed elderly man who had rediscovered his will to live by caring for the older horses. "Mum, do you think you did everything you could?" Catherine asked one afternoon as they watched the Institute's bustling activity. "I did everything I knew how to do, dear, and I learned that sometimes that's more than enough." "What's the most important thing you've learned on this journey?" "That love is the most powerful force in the universe, and when we put that force to work for others, it multiplies in ways we never imagined." Amber lived to 85, long enough to see her great-grandchildren display the family's gift with animals. She passed peacefully on a spring morning, surrounded by family and the animals she had devoted her life to caring for. Her final wish was to be buried beside Thunder, under the tree Catherine had planted decades before. At Amber's funeral, over 1,000 people attended. Former patients, family members, professionals in the field, authorities, and ordinary folks who had been touched by her work. Catherine delivered a moving speech. "My mother always said she was just a girl who understood the sadness of a donkey, but in truth, she was so much more than that. She was a person who dedicated her entire life to proving that compassion can change the world, one heart at a time." The Institute continued to thrive under Catherine's leadership and that of future generations. The story of Amber and Thunder became a legend in the region and an inspiration for countless people around the world. Decades later, a new little girl arrived at the Institute. She was 5 years old, the same age Amber had been when she first rode Thunder. The girl was shy and frightened, a victim of abuse. Catherine, now the director for many years, watched as the girl approached a young donkey that had arrived at the Institute the week before. The animal was also skittish and traumatized. "Hi, boy," the child whispered softly. "Are you scared too?" "I am." but I think we'll be okay here." Catherine smiled, seeing history repeat itself. The cycle of love and healing continued, perpetuating the legacy that had begun with a desperate bet and a brave girl who saw beyond the apparent fierceness of a sorrowful donkey. The end of the story. What an incredible story, isn't it? Amber taught us that small acts of courage and love can transform entire lives. Tell us in the comments, which part moved you the most? Leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and share your own story of overcoming adversity.